On this episode of Kpop,
we're going to be talking about English language in K-pop, if it plays into its success internationally. Is it becoming more important for K-pop idols to know English? And what is the future for English in the K-pop industry? We record our podcast in downtown Changwon City, South Korea at the only Irish bar in town, O'Brien's Irish Bar and Restaurant. They are located in Juongdong, right across from the International Hotel on the 3rd floor. If you're in the area, be sure to stop by and check them out for some great food, drinks, and one of the best atmospheres in the area. O'Brien's Irish Bar and Restaurant, Changwon City.
it's Kpop, Life in Korea, with your hosts Scott, Marco, and Adam.
Welcome back to K-Pod Life in Korea, the podcast that brings you some of the lives and people working and living right here in South Korea and in Changwon City in particular. I'm one of the hosts, Adam. Sitting across from me is Marco. Hello, Marco. How are you?
Doing great. How you doing?
And to my right is Scott. Scott, how you doing?
Doing pretty good.
And to the left is our guest this evening, and her name is Saber. Saber, how are you?
I'm good. Great to be here.
All right, so on this episode of K-Pod, we are going to be talking about English language in K-pop, if it plays into its success internationally. Is it becoming more important for K-pop idols to know English? And what is the future for English in the K-pop industry? First, I'd like to introduce our guest for this evening, Saber, sitting to my left. Saber, how are you and where are you from?
I'm good. I'm from Texas originally. I've been into K-pop for a while.
When did you first move to Korea?
I first moved to Korea in 2015.
And are you working at a private academy or a public school?
I'm at a private academy.
Why are you so interested in K-pop?
I really like the overall sound of it. I enjoy Korean language. I enjoy the group atmosphere and the outfits that they always have.
You're also involved with Kpop Global.
Yes, I am.
So you and Marco do some stuff with that?
Mm-hmm,
regarding...
We love watching those videos and reacting.
Do you have a favorite K-pop group?
My favorite K-pop group is Big Bang.
Okay.
Which means nothing to me and Adam.
They can be y'all's favorite too.
I've heard
That's
of
all you
them.
have to
I've
say.
heard of them.
I've heard of the TV show.
Yeah, The Big Bang Theory.
They're not related.
So, Marco, you're obviously into K-pop.
Yeah.
And who are some of your favorite current bands?
I usually just go straight for EXO. That's really just because they were my first K-pop group. But like, I'm a fan of Winner, Big Bang, Blackpink, 21, BTS. A lot of just the big names. Although 21's not current.
So it seems these days K-pop's becoming a lot more popular around the world. And I have noticed just from doing some stuff with you two that there is more English in some of the songs and stuff like that, whether it's verses or the chorus of the song. Do you think that has any effect on its like global appeal?
I think I've also noticed this trend, especially in Blackpink just released their new song, Kill This Love. And I noticed like the whole last verse or hook was all in English. And I thought that was rather strange. And the English is also getting better in the songs. Like if you look back when I first got into it with like Shiny and like Super Junior, the English lyrics that they had sounded really awkward, or it was phrased incorrectly.
Or Konglish.
Yeah. Whereas nowadays you don't hear that.
I think one thing that helps is like now English is actually pretty embedded into the Korean language. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like in 50 years, if the world is still here, God forbid, that Konglish is its own language. Like it's a pidgin language of its own. There's Korean, there's English, and then there's Konglish that a lot of people will just be speaking naturally because so much integration of English words has been brought. And then also a lot of they start young in K-pop, and these days parents are finding it's like very important for your kids to learn English, or at least that's the view. So many of these kids who are learning English or even coming in from abroad, because 3 of Blackpink members have lived abroad as well. So like 3 of them speak English too fluently.
And the companies also give them English tutors and things.
They do.
Japanese tutors as well.
Yes.
You mentioned, was it Blackpink?
Yes.
Doesn't a member of them is fluent in English?
Well, two of them are. Rosé, like she lived in, I believe, Australia for a really long time, and then Jenny, I believe she went to school there for a while. I don't know exactly, so sorry, fans, if I'm.
It might have been New Zealand.
Well, no, one is Australia and one is New Zealand. Yeah, but I think Rosé was there longer. I think she spent part of her childhood there, and then Jenny went to just study English there for a while. But a lot of K-pop artists came from Western countries. Like Amber Liu is from LA. Big Matthew is from LA. Ailey grew up in New England. Even a lot of from Canada as well.
So you're seeing with, I guess, the younger K-pop bands, just in general, like younger Koreans in the country seem to know English a lot more than the generation, like say when I first came here.
I would, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Whether they've lived abroad or studied here.
But then you have BTS, and only really one of their members knows English fluently enough.
Right.
That's the guy that learned it from friends.
Yeah.
And that actually, one, he just has an insane IQ for what I keep seeing everywhere. But he speaks fluently, just very, very fluently. You can look at other groups where the members speak basic English. I have seen videos of Key from SHINee, and he can get by, but I wouldn't say that he's fluent. Maybe at high intermediate, low advanced or something, but I wouldn't say he's fluent. But RM is completely integrated into the English. He can speak flawless English pretty much. Maybe just a few mistakes here and there, and that helps the entire group.
And he learned that in Korea? I guess?
Yeah.
He watched Friends.
He's never been abroad, right?
Well, other than touring.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, he didn't live abroad, as far as I know. From what I read, again, the internet says crazy things, is he watched it once with Korean subtitles, then he watched it with English subtitles, then he watched the entire series of Friends. And I'm sure he studied in Korea as well, because...
Plus, they're pretty successful internationally now. So they've done a lot of traveling. He's probably done a lot of interviews, which is practice. I'm sure his English is improving the more and more fame they have type thing.
An interesting thing I read recently, in an interview, RM was talking about speaking English because they did last year release a song with Steve Aoki. It's only 3 of the members who really take part, but it's entirely in English, but it's not a BTS song. And he said himself that he doesn't think BTS is going to, be releasing just full English songs. Yes, K-pop has English words in it, and that's fine, but he said, as a group, they're trying to speak who they are, and they are Korean, So for him, it would be a bit dishonest, I think, is how he kind of explained his feelings.
Plus, I would assume most K-pop bands and singers, their bread and butter is still Korean fans.
Of course.
Saber, you mentioned earlier that some of the earlier K-pop, when they incorporated the English language, you said it was a little bit awkward or strange. Can you give an example of that? Because I remember hearing a song like Sorry, But I Love You, and I thought that was kind of strange sounding.
I can't think of one right now, but I used to watch a YouTube channel, and they would sort of pick all of the funniest missayings from K-pop, and it's just so funny. Gosh, I wish I remembered one right now.
Was it just broken English, or just
it's broken
grammatically
English.
incorrect?
In one song, they had sort of a math equation at one point, and it's why are you saying that in the middle of your song? So it's just random English that they thought that they could put in for whatever reason. I don't know if that was to entice fans to listen, international fans to listen, or why they chose to do that.
What do you think it is about K-pop that is so appealing these days, around the world, other countries? I mean, it seems like it's huge in, I don't know what areas. Obviously, it's become more popular in the States and Canada and stuff like that, but it's also big in the Middle East, or...
It's pretty big in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. And actually, South America has a pretty big, Brazil especially.
So what's so appealing about it?
I think it's something new. for a lot of people. And it has such a high production value. Like, these artists are really going their all because they've trained their whole lives to do this. So they're having these really well choreographed bits in their music videos. Their music videos look like movies. I think that fans really enjoy that.
So it's like a fancy version of Bollywood, maybe?
Maybe.
In some ways, I don't necessarily. I'm not knocking either one.
Well, some groups like BTS do incorporate traditional dance into their choreography. I think choreography, like she said, is a big thing.
I just mean, like, it's similar to me. Why is Bollywood such a big thing?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily get it myself, but to me, K-pop, you could ask the same about either genre.
I'd say it's comparable.
I don't know enough about Bollywood.
Yeah, neither do I.
I think in North America, a lot of it is just bandwagoning, to be honest. Like, I think that the popularity is well-deserved, but in North America, there's a very big culture of bandwagoning. Like, when something becomes popular, everyone just dives in right away. Like, there's not a lot of people who are like, let me just see what this is about first. Like, we just see that a lot. So that's how things go viral. That's how things trend. That's kind of just an effect of being so connected. But I have seen, like, before it did get its recent popularity, like with BTS, like there were other groups like Big Bang and 21 have had airplay in the States before.
I think, I don't remember the name of the band. It was like Wonder Girls or
Wonder Girls,
a band like that. Actually, I think they're one of the first to tour the States. It was a girl band. I don't remember.
It might have been Girls' Generation.
Girls' Generation
they were
is huge in America. Yeah.
But K-pop is also, it's the only music genre that is actually manufactured. I've read that somewhere. Like, it's everything is planned from day one. It's the only, looking at music as an art form, you know, there's a lot of bands, people write their music. There's a big difference between that and the K-pop genre. Everything's manufactured and planned by companies. And
I think I understand what you mean. Like, there's a big corporate influence, and like a lot of these K-pop stars aren't allowed to be in romantic relationships for some reason. Have you heard of this?
I'm not
contractually.
Well, it's because they provide a fantasy. Like, it's insane. It's absurd.
Yeah, didn't one girl get let go from a K-pop group because they found out she had a boyfriend or something?
Yeah,
like that?
Hyuna.
Oh yeah. Hyuna and Edon were both let go from their groups and their label, actually. Of course, now they're under a different label and they're just like, yeah, we're still together.
Yeah.
Joke's on you.
I think that a lot of companies, they still plan for their artists, but I think now with Big Bang and BTS, there's a lot more songwriting going on and a lot more creative influence from the artists themselves. I don't know if that impacts overall international enjoyment of them. I mean, those are huge groups.
I would think it does impact. I mean, I think I'm going to say it started probably mostly with Big Bang because they became so popular internationally, and then like YG needed them.
Yeah.
And they knew it, so they could take more control of their artistry.
Do you think that's similar with BTS and Big Hit?
I think, Big Hit was not one of the big three. I mean, I guess with
But I mean, now they're
recent events,
huge.
There's like the big four or whatever they're saying. I don't know how that's going, but like Big Hit is, from what I understand, early on, they weren't as controlling as the other groups. Like, obviously they managed them well, but it could all just be like coaching for the kids. But if you listen to the stagehands, you listen to interviews with the artists, they are always talking about how their label put their well-being before the shows or the money, which is different, and that actually might help them internationally, because especially in Western countries where human rights are such a big deal, like if this type of manufacturing was happening in America, there would be a big stink about it, because it would be like a violation of human rights, some of the things that are expected of these artists.
Up next, we're going to talk about the question of whether or not English is influencing K-pop or not. And after that, we're going to jump on to K-pop's influence on learning English. All right, my first question is, do you think that the English language will become a necessity for these K-pop stars? Will it be something that they have to learn in order to advance their career? Marco, what do you think?
Well, I think it's possible. I mean, English in K-pop is not new. They have been already, like, even before, like, the past couple years and the boost in popularity, they were being trained in English, Japanese, Chinese to help boost international sellability, marketability.
Yeah, I never thought about that. I guess they're big in a lot of countries. There could be a lot of languages that they might want to learn or study.
Yeah.
Well, your EXO has those Chinese members too, right? Don't they?
They did.
Oh.
There's only
Not
one
anymore.
left. But since the Chinese cultural embargo, he's been promoting in China, which was smart on SM because now they're still making money in China off of this.
Right.
But yeah, they originally had two subgroups. They would release songs in Korean and Mandarin, like all the same songs, just both languages.
It is interesting that there's so much in English in K-pop, but it's really popular in Japan, but there's no Japanese in K-pop.
That's because they tend to do Japanese albums, just like
I
full
guess that's
albums.
true.
Like Japanese is an easier language to learn for Koreans than English is. So
They have their own genre too, don't they? Like J-pop.
J-pop.
yeah,
But a lot of Korean artists do go over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hasn't there been artists here that maybe were more popular in Japan and just moved there? Wasn't there a guy named Rain or B?
Rain. He's pretty popular in America too, though.
He's old.
Yeah, he's old.
Right, but I think he moved to Japan.
Did he?
Well, Daesung for Big Bang.
Oh yeah, he's really popular.
He was
in
super
Japan.
popular in Japan, but like his solo stuff wasn't as popular in Korea.
Yeah, they love him in Japan. Or even didn't Super Junior last year or a year ago they released that song and it had a lot of Spanish influences.
Ah, Lo siento.
Yeah, and didn't Card do something like that as well?
Well, Card does a lot of like reggaeton feel, but they've toured South America 4 or 5 times.
Do you think that band members of these K-pop groups that have English abilities tend to have more success overseas? Do you think that there's more appeal when they incorporate these lyrics into their songs?
Like, who do you think is the biggest bands that are not in Korea but popular, say in America? You said BTS, Blackpink.
Yeah, Blackpink's coming up.
Yeah.
They've done some collabs.
Both of them have members that speak English, either fluent or well.
I think it's important if they do want to get sort of international popularity, especially in the States, they have to have some member who is able to speak English to do interviews and things like that. Because the way that they display their music in America is like going on talk shows or, you know, things like that.
And I think English as like, I don't think English is a superior language. I don't like to view it like that. But like English is a de facto language. Like as a tourist, every country I've ever visited, I've been able to, because I speak English, I've been able to. So like in most countries, English is like, it is the most widely known second language in the world. So I think as artists, no matter where you're going, knowing English is helpful.
Right. And finally, we're going to discuss K-pop's influence on learning English. Do you think with the use in newer K-pop songs, is it influencing younger Koreans to want them to learn English? Does it have this kind of appeal for younger students in this country?
Like for myself, just speaking, not necessarily on K-pop, but I've had students, especially middle school, that have come up to me with something either written down or something they printed, and it's a song, you know, with English in it, and they ask me, hey, what does this mean, type thing. Have you guys gotten any of that?
I haven't gotten any of that from K-pop songs, from like English songs, or my kids will like English artists and then they're more interested in English, but not usually from K-pop. I think it's still a little too dominant Korean based.
Yeah. I don't agree with you. Like most of my kids seem to be more interested in English artists than in the Korean artists. Although there are like some Korean artists who already have done like full English albums and things. So maybe that, like they could be into that.
Who are some of the artists that are pretty much just all English. Who's the guy? I know that we've covered him before. Is it J Park?
Oh, Jay Park.
He's Korean American, right?
Yeah, he's from Seattle. So he's done, he's signed, he has his own label here in Korea, which is, most of that is Korean. But a lot of his Korean songs he does English versions of. And then he's signed with, I think Jay-Z's label? I think
so.
Yeah, he's signed under Jay-Z's label in America.
Anyway, I've had students show me lyrics to a song, whether it was an English band or singer. Some of them are like, I don't want to explain what that is.
With Jay Park, that would definitely be
Definitely
the case.
Jay Park.
I've heard, it goes back to, I've been at department stores here and heard some of the worst songs on the radio. Just swearing away.
Yeah,
Playing-
I've heard that too
playing
on the
music.
street, walking down the street.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny that way, but it's just weird when, you
I've
have
seen
this.
students come in with like swear words on their shirts.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that last time, right?
Yeah.
Strange things.
Actually, they had band t-shirts. I'm thinking last year, one of the Korean retailers had band t-shirts as like a huge special. So I was seeing like Nirvana, Run DMC, and that sort of thing as well.
Do you think some of these idols, like the guy you mentioned, BTS, that speaks English, what was his name?
RM.
And a couple in Blackpink and some others that are kind of fluent in English, do you think they're an inspiration to some of these fans, like that look up to them and think, well, she's so good with English, I want to learn English more?
I'm sure fans would think that. Like if they were really a fanatic about that certain idol, they would want to be like them. I don't know if older fans would think that, or maybe it's only just younger fans.
I think if older fans were doing it, because all these people are younger than I am.
Yeah.
I think they'd be looking at it more practically. It's not like, oh, I love them so much, they're so good at English, but they're like, look at how successful they are and how English is helping them. Maybe.
See, for myself, I don't know much about K-pop, and I've been here for almost 20 years, and I've noticed a difference in the, let's say the last 2 decades. With when I first got here, there were certain bands. I remember, say, 10 years ago, there was a band called Beast.
Yeah.
That was really popular with, say, kids 14 to 16 years old.
I remember Beast.
Just like kids now are into BTS. One thing I found in general, certain bands are popular with certain ages. It could be even a year. Like kids that are 13 to 15 are into BTS. Kids that are older, a little bit older, might be into another band. And it's always been like that, And English is definitely, I find, in a lot of these bands that the kids are liking these days more than back when Beast was popular or whoever was before that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, do these K-pop bands, do they have an expiry date? Because Big Bang has been big for quite a while, but things like bands like Beast have kind of come and gone.
I think it all depends on military dates for boy groups. Once they have to go to the military, they're kind of usually expired. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it depends on how big the group is. As Super Junior is able to keep their name in the lights because they had so many people, so they can be like, oh, well, while these people are enlisted, these can be like promoting something.
And I guess you just grow out of things too. It's common with any art form, any music band in the world. I grew up with Ozzy Osbourne. And
do you think, like, in the future, when you go to, let's say, like the Jinae Cherry Blossom Festival in like 2026, it's going to be some washed up K-pop band that nobody really cares about anymore? Just like you see like some of these like old like ballad singers.
First, you're assuming I'm going to be here in 2026.
Anyone could be here still,
More likely, but I don't know if I'll ever go to the Jinae Blossom Festival again, but
It's pretty crowded, yeah.
I think it's hard for K-pop artists or K-pop idols to stay relevant because a lot of the things they do are so high intensity. A lot of like if we're looking at BTS, for example, like their dances are insane. Like just keeping up that sort of stamina when they get older is
They're going to be throwing out their backs and
yeah.
stuff.
So I think like they might still be around, but I think their dynamic will change.
Okay.
And I think they'll have new fans.
I do think BTS does have a bit of an edge, though, because what I've noticed is as children grow up and they become more connected, they become more interested in Western artists. Like a lot of my adult friends, not interested in K-pop in the least. Not the old, not the new. They want to talk about Western music, like the ones who are around my age, the ones who are in their 20s. So BTS, if they could maintain their international popularity, then they could have a chance of staying more relevant inside Korea as well, because maybe the fans would still be interested.
And then their
That's a good
song
point.
topics too have to sort of grow and develop, and BTS does that well.
And they're very introspective.
Yeah.
It's not as artificial, I guess.
Has there ever been a case regarding K-pop? Like, can it be like almost like kind of like sports, like a sports team? So you have the brand. I'm not gonna say BTS, but give me who'd you say? EXO?
EXO.
Could EXO, like being kind of a name brand, could members kind of grow out of the band and they just bring in new members, like a younger generation?
Well, they're kind of, I hate to say it, but there's a new group from the same company called NCT, and it just seems like instead of replacing members in bands, it sounds like they're just trying to replace the band. Because a lot of people are saying, oh, NCT is going to be the next EXO. And I'm like, but EXO's still here.
But do you know what I mean, though? Like, you could have a band
I don't
like
think
EXO 20 years from now. EXO still exists, but they're obviously different, younger members.
They're not big about replacing members. From what I've seen, it's like once, I don't know how EXO has done it, because usually like once members start to go, that's like the death of a band. But I guess with Super Junior, they lost like one or two. And though they have actually added members, but for subgroups, not for the actual group, because there was a lot, like they were given a lot of crap for like
I think
adding.
that the fans of K-pop, usually they'll pick a bias, right? And so that's why they're listening to this group. And if they were to switch out members, I don't know if they would be able to keep their solid fan base.
And I mean, it has happened that they'll bring in like replacement members, but it usually once like someone goes, the band starts to dwindle.
Have either of you ever used K-pop in your classroom in terms of maybe teaching something or?
Well, we work at the same school and we have an English only policy.
Yeah,
So no.
we can't play K-pop.
Yeah, like I'll talk to the kids about it, like about groups, because like, oh, I like that song, but as long as they're not actually speaking Korean, like I guess it's fine, but English only is.
I've used some videos in my classroom with regards to K-pop. I really like those kind of funny videos, you know, where they have a music video without the music. You ever see those?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll throw on one of those, like whether it's BTS, just because the kids don't really know about those videos.
Yeah.
It's kind of making fun of it, but not really, you know what I mean? They're funny.
You showed me the
they'll
one
laugh
for
at it, but-
CL, right? You showed me that Hello
probably.
Bitches.
Yeah, that's
Like,
old.
I don't feel like she was being made fun of. Like it was.
There's a lot.
It was all good fun.
Almost every
Yeah.
BTS video has that. You know, every video they've done, there's a version of no music type thing.
Now I know what I'm going to do for the rest of the day.
I'll show you a couple. Do you think K-pop could be used to learn English? I guess it all depends on if they start using more and more English in their music.
Well,
Have you ever used any other type of music?
we do a pop song contest.
Yeah, so the kids have to learn an English song, an English pop song usually, and then perform it.
And and I don't know, like, I guess they can get vocabulary, but I feel like grammatically, songs are not the way to go to learn a language, because things are just kind of,
I think it's good for like younger students. Like my morning kids will sing like nursery rhymes and things, and I think that works for them. I'm not sure how well a pop song would work for the age group that we teach.
yeah, and I feel like the songs you have, the nursery rhymes, are different than pop songs.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I don't know how much they would be able to get out of K-pop songs, unless it's like a warning, like, oh, do you see how they used it? Don't use English this way. That would be the older songs.
That makes sense. And where do you see the future of English in the K-pop industry? Do you think it's going to have any effect in terms of it's going to get more and more to help with the global business market of it, or
It already has.
Yeah, I think that...
so do you see it continuing? Like 20 years from now, are you going to see every K-pop band fluent in English, singing more in English? I mean, you might see that in general with just Koreans in general, but
I think that there will be maybe more English or better English in the songs. I don't necessarily think that all the members will be fluent, because the core of K-pop is the Korean base, and without that you don't have it anymore. So I don't know if it'd be able to really have the full appeal anymore.
that's the K in K-pop.
And I see like the biggest thing that they would do is that they would do just like they do the Chinese or Japanese. They would just start releasing English albums.
Or even subgroups. They could have like a subgroup, like an English
Right.
subgroup for them.
So like, and even though they don't speak, because all the artists who release Japanese albums, they're not completely fluent in Japanese. They learn the parts for the song and then they go. And I can see like Lay from EXO just released a full, I mean, he speaks English, but like he just released a full album in English. So like all these collaborations between English artists, I think that will continue, but I don't think, it's like you said, it's not gonna.
I want to be a K-pop star just like G-Dragon. What do you think? Do you have any advice for me?
You have to dye your hair
Okay.
a bright, shocking color.
And go back in time like 20 years.
Nice one.
Brutal.
I mean, they start young. Like, they start training as young as, like, 11. I think,
G-Dragon had been in the entertainment business since he was a child.
yeah.
So, yeah, you would definitely need to be...
I need a time travel machine. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I need a flux capacitor.
It sounds like based on that name that you'd have to maybe change Adam to something too.
Adam. I feel like there is a K-pop idol named Adam. A lot of them just have, like, just English names.
Yeah, there's like Henry, right?
Well, he's
or
from
Vernon.
Canada. Like, he's from America.
Okay, well, I didn't know.
G-Dragon is pretty out there.
Well, his name is Ji-young.
You can be like, I don't know.
And
You just
Young
pick
means
a letter
dragon.
from the alphabet. You can be C unicorn.
There you go. Color your hair. See unicorn back in
My
time.
gosh, can you just, like, get a rainbow mohawk with the spikes?
There you go.
Please?
No, sounds good.
No mohawk, just like a
Just one.
horn.
Just
for
one.
the unicorn.
Just
Does anyone have a favorite K-pop song? Because, like I said, I'm not well versed in K-pop, but there is one song that I do like.
What is that?
Girls' Generation,
GG.
Lionheart.
Lionheart.
I love that song.
That song is very catchy.
I love that song. It's got kind of like the like an old school, like early.
And the music video is really cool, too.
Yeah, the music video is cool. That is a great song.
Are a lot of K-pop song titles or names in English, or is that just a translation?
Some of
Like
them.
Lionheart. Is that,
No, like in the chorus, they say, your Lionheart.
Yeah.
I'd say you got a lot more things to work on to be to be a G-Dragon there.
See
Yeah.
unicorn.
A lot of them are in English, and then a lot of them are not. Like, I'm going to go with Big Bang, and this is one of my favorite, and this fits with this topic, the song Fuck It. And usually I'm not going to swear on this podcast, but that's the name of the song. So it's, the Korean name is Era Moregetta, and that it basically means I don't know, but I have been told by Koreans that a lot of times they just say that, and it really just means like, oh, fuck it, whatever, whatever. But I think that song is genius. And I'm going to quote Henry, who you just mentioned. He said when he heard this song, he like in Korean, he heard Era moregetta, and in English, he heard, and I'm going to get down. And like they actually alternate in the choruses which one they're saying, but I'm like, that is ingenious.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Writing, because whichever language you're listening, you're hearing like something in your language.
Saber, you have a favorite?
Oh, a favorite song. That would be so hard to choose. I really like...
Like if you could put on any K-pop song right now.
Oh, no. I have different moods. I really liked 21's Goodbye song, or like Missing You. Like I like their slower stuff. But like, if I need to get like amped up for something, I'm gonna play Big Bang, like any of their songs.
Loser.
Maybe not Loser. That one's not one of my favorites.
I love that
It's
song.
like we like to party.
Yeah. Damn.
There seems to be a lot of songs that are the titles in English, but doesn't really mean anything. Like, what's that Blackpink song? Boombaya.
Boombaya.
Well, Boombaya. I mean, it's just a sound. It's
Well,
like,
it was originally supposed to be Oppa, yeah.
Was
Right?
it? I don't know.
I think so.
Really?
Huh.
Why did they change it?
But because they didn't want to be like calling Oppa the whole time, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that just makes me like them even more.
Yeah, I think
Get
that was a
this
group
Aegyo out of
decision.
here.
Some of these songs stick around for a while too. Like I moved to Korea 2000, like late 2007, and that song "Tell Me" by Wonder Girls was really popular at that time. And
Don't
it's
look
still
at me. I don't know why you're looking over at
no,
me.
but it's still like, you know, like some of my students now still sing it, even though, you know, it was released before they were even born, right? So
Yeah. Well, Sorry by Super Junior.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you hear that one everywhere. And that was released in 2009. It's been 10 years.
When I first came, or sometime around when I first got to Korea, Psy Champion was being played everywhere, which is probably around 2003 or earlier. But anyway,
that concludes this episode of K-Pod. I'd like to thank Saber for joining us this evening. Saber, where can people find you?
I'm also at Kpop Global. Oh, I guess you haven't said that yet, actually. Am I at Kpop.global?
You are at Kpop.global.
At Kpop.global.
She's at K-Pop Global.
That's the one, right? Kpop.global.
Marco.
I am also at Kpop.global.
And Scott.
you can find me pretty much anywhere online under Changwoner, Changwonderful, or this podcast.
And you can find me, Adam, stalking G-Dragon and finding out his ways.
See unicorn.
The unicorn.
See unicorn.
One day.
Unicorn. Thanks, everybody.
We record our podcast in downtown Changwon City, South Korea, at the only Irish bar in town, O'Brien's Irish Bar and Restaurant. They are located in Jungang-dong, right across from the International Hotel on the 3rd floor. If you are in the area, be sure to stop by and check them out for some good food, drinks, and one of the best atmospheres in the area. O'Brien's Irish Bar and Restaurant, Changwon City.